When I first saw Lilo and Stitch, I was very young. I don't remember anything about my first time watching it. It's one of those scenarios where you're so young that you aren't conscious, and by the time you become conscious, it's just inevitable. The movie has always been there. The movie came in 2002, just a year before I was born. By the time I was old enough to remember and love Lilo and Stitch, I knew what it meant to be lonely. I've made many decisions in my life based on loneliness. It can drive you to accept things from people that you shouldn't, or to decline things from people that you should. That's the crux of the film to me, loneliness. How it eats away at us, driving us to seek connections from other people in productive or harmful ways. It can be the difference between someone turning the corner and living a life they'd be proud of, and someone continuing down the void path of some kind of nihilism. The film also juxtaposes its crux with its anchor. If the crux is loneliness, then the anchor is family. The dichotomic relationship between loneliness and family within the story blends together to create something that was quite the balm to my lonely 5-year-old heart. I didn't know it then, but I would watch this film to help me process my own grief for circumstances in my life that were less than desirable, if my tone doesn't make it obvious. In a way, I felt like the movie was grieving with me. Of course, I didn't have language for it back then, but now, getting older, and spending a lot of time unpacking emotions and memories with a therapist, it's given me hindsight regarding a lot of my younger self's actions. This film means a lot to me, beyond the fact that I have nostalgic attachment. I do recognize that I'm speaking from an objectively subjective lens, so any flaws within the film could be overlooked by myself. I don't think this video should serve as an objective review of Lilo and Stitch, at least one that isn't biased in some way. It can serve as a starting ground to understanding how the original film may have impacted its target audience, or act as a window into the mindset of a child that may have related to the story more closely than average. I simply want to talk about my experience with the film by delving into some of its themes, explaining my interpretations of those themes, and also explaining how those interpretations came to be due to my childhood experiences and affinity for the property. I did watch the cartoon as a child, but I don't remember much of anything from it except the floral pattern title cards.
Actually, she's just ugly.
And I've probably at least seen the immediate sequel, Stitch Has a Glitch, but I don't remember much from it either. The movie I grew attached to was the first one. That's the one I'm specifically referring to. I have a love-hate relationship with Disney sequels. Most of the time, they're a dilution of what the original work did, or a retread, or sometimes a very good subversion, but not given the time or energy it deserves. I also will not be referring to the live-action remake. I don't really keep up with Disney live-action remakes anymore. I was too burned on The Lion King 2019. Which I want to point out that I never thought was going to be as good as the original, but was somewhat forced to watch it due to the living situation I was in at the time, and a child that was staying with my family wanting to watch the film. Here's what I thought of it, straight from the theater.
His mighty and ambitions are bare. Be prepared. Audio Jungle.
Be prepared. Be prepared.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
I also want to apologize for the audio jumble. That was awful. Of sound effects and background music over that clip. I'm really trying to make sure it doesn't get copyrighted. Copyright is really, really weird, so I'm hoping that maybe it'll get through, but if that was really annoying to watch, I'm very, very sorry. Part 1. Crux. Loneliness, grief, and the sadder aspects of the film.
Let me illuminate to you the precarious situation in which you have found yourself. I am the one they call when things go wrong. And things have indeed gone wrong.
We follow the young, eccentric 6-year-old named Lilo as our deuteragonist. Lilo spends a lot of time alone, which is both shown and implied to be due to her 19-year-old sister Nani, who has to work odd jobs at odd hours, doing whatever she can to keep them afloat in this strange new reality the sisters have found themselves in, as they no longer have their parents. They are both being forced to grow up in many ways as a result.
Did you lose your job because of Stitch and me?
Nah, the manager's a vampire, and he wanted me to join his Legion of the Undead.
I knew it.
Nani's plight is indicative of many single mothers in the world, who have to do the best they can with the resources available.
Okay, I gotta get to work. Stick around town and stay out of the roads, okay? I'll meet you at 1. Okay, I guess we should be going.
However, in their efforts to provide for their children financially, it can be hard to find time to provide for them emotionally, due to it being difficult to provide for themselves emotionally, and often leading to outbursts or repression from emotional dysregulation brought on by continuous stress. Lilo's plight is of the children. They love their moms, and can sometimes even understand with adult clarity the hardships their caregivers face and must overcome in order to take care of them. But a child is still a child, and children need that emotional support, time, and care in order to actualize as fully formed, healthily functioning adults, both in body and in heart. Nani is doing the best that she can, but the stresses of that kind of life takes its toll in many ways for her. She tries her best to mind her temper, mind her emotions, mind her stress in front of Lilo, but she's a young person herself, and even if she wasn't, she's human and under a lot of stress. It's normal for breaks to happen in her composure, given the situation.
Why didn't you wait at the school? You were supposed to wait there! Lilo! Do you not understand? Do you want to be taken away? Answer me!
No!
No, you don't understand?
No!
No! What?
No!
Grief itself can be a lonely experience, and having to watch your sister work herself to the bone for your sake, and give up on experiences she could enjoy for her own sake.
I was wondering, if you're not doing anything this...
David, I told you I can't. I got a lot to deal with right now.
Would be a lot to process as a child. And, as a child, Lilo shouldn't have to process those kinds of things.
I need to take Lilo home now. We have a lot to talk about, you know? Thanks.
But she does. Grievous situations hit us out of nowhere. From losing a stuffed animal at a hotel on vacation, to watching your baby kitten you only had for a few days struggle to take its last breath. She was stepped on by someone I forgive but despise all the same. It isn't fair because it isn't fair, and you don't have to do anything to deserve it, even if you did. In my opinion, we don't deserve bad things happening to us no matter what, but they do, because it isn't fair. Life is not fair, and it's perfectly okay to acknowledge that. That in itself is a loaded conversation, and I want to feign some level of restraint by cutting it short. I'm only going to say this. Life sucks. But it doesn't always suck, and the spectrum of suckery isn't black and white. It's a spectrum that we call the human experience, both beautiful and terrible. A lot of people have different perspectives on life, the meaning of it, where we go after we die, and what or who to believe in. These perspectives, faiths, or ideologies can be a source of great comfort and stability, and we do see in the film that, at the very least, Lilo subscribes to some spiritual belief.
It's me again. I need someone to be my friend. Someone who won't run away. Maybe send me an angel. The nicest angel you have.
It can give many a sense of power or control in the, ironically, fact that they don't have any power or control over everything that happens to them. Because a benevolent, compassionate, zealous God loves them enough to make all things work together for their good, to be near them when they are broken-hearted, to love both men and women equally, among many other things. But back to that moment of Lilo praying. It's an example of a made-up phenomenon I want to describe, an artistic strategy that I think Lilo and Stitch employed quite successfully. Emotional liminal space. Before I can define the made-up term emotional liminal space, it would help if I defined what a liminal space is in the first place. To define a liminal space, let's define liminal and space. Starting with liminal, one definition says it is of or relating to a transitional or intermediate state, stage, or period. Another says of, relating to, or being an intermediate state, phase, or condition. And one more says between two different states or places. I think you get the idea. But what about space? What does that mean? That's a word many of us know off top, but I will define it anyway to strengthen my point. One definition says the unlimited or incalculably great three-dimensional realm or expanse in which all material objects are located and always occur. Another definition from this same source says a place available for a particular purpose. A different source says an amount of an area or of a place that is empty or that is available for use. Space is essentially an area or capacity, designated or undesignated, that is available for use, available to be filled, or simply empty. What is a liminal space? Psych mechanics Hanan Parvez, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that, says a liminal space is a space between spaces. A liminal space is a boundary between 2 points in time, space, or both. I've said space a lot. Anywho, it's the middle ground between two grounds, the mid-structure between two structures. When you're in a liminal space, you're neither here nor there, neither this nor that. At the same time, you're both here and there, both this and that. Forbes says liminal space refers to the place a person is in during a transitional period. It's a gap and can be physical, like a doorway, emotional, like a divorce, or metaphorical, like a decision. A state or place characterized by being transitional or intermediate in some way. Any location that is unsettling, uncanny, or dreamlike. I would define emotional liminal space as a position, posture, or placement one arrives at or is placed in within their psyche that borders the emotional and the non-emotional, the logical and the illogical. It is a transitional period between feeling your feelings and looking back on those feelings. It is a paradoxical place where one essentially feels so much that they feel nothing at all, or find that, as they cry, they are watching themselves through an internal mirror that expands that emotion into an actual place they can reside in, outside of the bounds of time. There are many moments where I feel like the movie asks you to sit with the scene and let a feeling simmer. Lilo chucking our handmade doll into the ground, Stitch sitting in the forest alone, staring down at the ugly duckling storybook and proclaiming to the world, which is not listening, that he is lost.
Lost. Lost.
Nani cradling Lilo close to her chest, knowing she'll lose her to foster care tomorrow, as they watch their matching flowers flutter away in the breeze after Nani sings Aloha Oe.
Come here. Aloha Oe, Aloha Oe, Ike ona ona no ho, Ikalipo. One fond embrace, aho ia, until we meet again.
Lilo and Stitch doesn't tell you outwardly how to feel about some scenes. Sure, there's a muted color palette, a sad-looking animated character, or a minor key piano and strings composition for good measure. But even with that, it still leaves you to decide why a particular scene is sad. Yes, you can see the images on screen, and you are, hopefully, aware of the context that led up to that scene within the narrative. But it allows you to inject your own personal experiences into the film.
You know, I really believed they had a chance. Then you came along.
That's what's amazing about the children's media genre. When it's in its most concentrated state of excellence, there's a lot that they can't exactly show, so they are forced to play around with show don't tell in an effective enough way to get a message across without outright stating it. The point I hope is coming across is that being able to relate to enough of a film's emotion allows us to put ourselves within it. Movies, in their best form, can be mirrors. It allows us to look into memories within our lives, but remove ourselves from personal responsibility. It lets us process emotions in a way that can lead to an unbiased look on the ways we behave in relationships and situations, and force us to take an objective stance on it. Seeing a video of yourself stealing money from a tip jar at an ice cream shop may make you feel defensive, ready to justify the behavior at once. Seeing a movie character doing that can afford you the invaluable opportunity to see the situation from an outsider's lens, and to see that, no matter how you justify that kind of behavior, taking money from people who are already overworked and underpaid is unethical at best. Something I think is a problem in a lot of modern thinking when it comes to the arts, specifically films, television, plays, novels, etc., is that some people want to be told directly how to feel about something. They want to hear music to know they're supposed to feel happy, or have characters in film laugh to know that something is funny, and so on and so forth. I enjoy media that doesn't force you to have to interpret it one way, but gives you the space to come to your own interpretations and conclusions. I don't want to come off as elitist by saying that, because I understand that being adrift with no indication of tone or mood in a narrative can lead to confusion and ultimately disinterest for most. At the end of the day, the author/writer/creator has to be willing to give you something, and, in return, beget something from yourself. Back to the prayer scene. We see Nani sitting behind Lilo's door, listening to her pray for a friend. You see Nani's eyes widen for a moment, perhaps in surprise or shock, feeling such a depth of emotion regarding Lilo's words that it affects her outwardly and obviously. The film doesn't give us a scene where Nani explicitly states over the phone to a friend why she felt the way she did about Lilo's words, nor does it ever have a monologue from inside her head. We are left with how she looks from the outside. For me, I'd like to posit that Nani is feeling both remorse at the situation they found themselves in without their parents, and possibly her own pangs of loneliness. Remember that, prior to this scene, Nani tried to play a joke with Lilo.
Can't you go any faster?
Oh no! Gravity is increasing on me!
No, it's not!
It is too, Lilo. The same thing happened yesterday.
You rotten sister, your butt is crushing me! Why do you act so weird?
Even as a child, I thought that Lilo's behavior here was pretty bratty. It never sat right with me how she immediately called her sister weird, just after divulging how the kids in her hula dance class treat her like she's weird.
Get peanut butter, cause all we have is stinking Duda!
Lilo, why is this so important?
Pudge controls the weather. You're crazy.
But again, she's a child. She is regurgitating what she's receiving from the outside.
No more caffeine for you.
This little girl is wasting her time.
I'm sorry! I won't do it again!
Maybe we should call your sister.
No! I'll be good! I want to dance. I practiced. Are you gonna play dolls? You don't have a doll.
At the school. You were supposed to wait there! Lilo! Do you not understand? Do you want to be taken away? Answer me! You're such a pain.
So why don't you sell me and buy a rabbit instead? We're a broken family, aren't we? I like you better as a sister than a mom.
Yeah?
And you like me better as a sister than a rabbit, right? Good, puppy. Now get into bed. Down.
Oh.
Be careful of that!
Until we meet again.
That's us before. It was rainy and they went for a drive. What happened to yours? I hear you cry at night. Do you dream about them? I know that's why you wreck things.
Call me next time you're left here alone.
Yep. Crazy. Like you! And push me. You rotten sister, your butt is crushing me! Why do you act so weird?
You can surmise that Nani understands this, considering that she doesn't burst into Lilo's room at that moment and chastise her for her rude behavior. Also, notice how Nani goes out of her way to open the door, to listen in on what Lilo will say within her wish. Even after being rebuffed, she seeks to give Lilo what she desires, or at least aid in her desire being fulfilled, even after Lilo didn't fulfill hers. Nani was playing a simple joke on her sister. A giggle, a clever quip, or a tease from Lilo would have been an appropriate response. You might ask, but why did Nani try and play this joke on her sister? Because she's 19 years old. And if she wasn't 19, because she's her older sister. And if she was her mom, because Lilo would hypothetically be her daughter in that instance. There have been plenty of times my parents have played less than ideal jokes or pranks on me, but my parents were extremely young when they had me. My mom wasn't much older than Nani when she found out she was pregnant with me. My dad was around Nani's age also. So, children raising children, but they did their best. Just like Nani is doing her best, and Lilo is doing her best too. Perhaps it is due to the loneliness in Lilo's heart that she takes the wish so seriously. She doesn't want to miss the opportunity to wish for a friend. She doesn't want to continue through life being ridiculed and mistreated by those around her, avoided and ostracized by those her age. You can understand both perspectives here, even if you felt more sympathetic to Nani than Lilo at this moment. But I enjoy this about the film, because they did an excellent job of capturing how children actually act, especially children going through something as traumatic as the sudden loss of both of their parents. Her feelings were hurt, but that wouldn't give her the right to hurt Lilo's feelings back. Lilo is a child, and children are quite egocentric. Lilo would see it as a fault within her, as she did with the bunny comment. Notice they both scream into the pillow.
I'm already in my room!
I think the film shows us this on purpose. Despite the disparity in age, they are both still developing and growing.
I hate it when
They
you
are
use
both still
Ohana
kids,
against me.
in a way. However, Nani is the one who approaches Lilo with pizza,
I brought you some
ready
pizza
to
in
apologize.
case you were hungry.
Nani is more capable of expressing her emotions with a situation, whereas Lilo's emotional intelligence is much more limited. Their mutual loneliness and grief, alongside their desire for relief from these negative feelings, clash with their perceived responsibilities as people, as sisters, as girls, and as a broken family. The structure that they once lived by was upended suddenly, and the film is following their journey to recovering some sense of normalcy after such a heavy loss. We can't expect either of them to act rationally. They're two people stuck in a situation that is unfair and left to deal with the consequences. They are thrust into a life that they weren't initially prepared nor built for, but have to make do with what they have. Their situation isn't changing. Their parents aren't coming back. The best thing Nani can do for Lilo is to get her an animal so she can have that friend. The best thing that Lilo can do is to have that immediate connection with somebody or something so that she has an outlet for her emotions and a person she can relate to on her level. Someone who accepts her for who she is, no matter what.
A falling star!
Then in comes Stitch. Part 2. anchor, family, connection, and the happier aspects of the film.
Where's Lilo?
Who? What?
Lilo. My sister.
Sorry. We do not know anyone by this,
Lilo! She's a little girl this big! She has black hair and brown eyes and she hangs around with that thing!
We know her.
Bring her back.
Oh, we can't do that. That would be misuse of galactic resources.
See, problem is, we're just here for him.
So she's gone?
Look at the bright side. You won't have to yell at anyone anymore.
Lilo!
This dirt and a rabbit, right?
Oh. Yes. Yes, I do. Your name and address at the bottom of the form. The kennel's back this way. Go. Pick someone out. Ay, Lilo! Your dog cannot sit at the table.
Stitch is troubled. He needs desserts.
Oh, you didn't even eat your sweet potato. I thought you liked them.
Desserts! Did you lose your job because of Stitch and me?
Nah. The manager's a vampire, and he wanted me to join his legion of the undead.
Nani.
Yeah. Look.
What about Stitch?
Lilo. Sometimes you try your hardest, but things don't work out the way you want them to. Sometimes things have to change. And maybe sometimes they're for the better. Even if... Lilo!
What happened?
Some Lolo must have stuffed us in the barrel.
Where's Stitch?
Lilo? Lilo, look at me. Look at me, baby. Are you hurt?
No. You'll like it a lot. See?
Lilo.
Comfy.
Hey! What is the matter with you?
Be careful of the little angel.
It's not an angel, Lilo. I don't even think it's a dog. We just have to take him back.
He's just cranky because it's his bedtime. You're losing the house all the time, and I see just fine. Hey, what are you doing? He was an orphan and we adopted him! What about Ohana?
He hasn't been here that long.
Neither have I. Dad said Ohana means family. Ohana means family. Family means
Nobody gets left behind
Or
forgotten. I know.
Come.
Hannah.
Huh?
Hey, get away from her.
No! What did you say?
Ohana means family.
Ohana means family.
Means
Family
Nobody gets left behind.
or forgotten.
Or forgotten.
Yeah.
I know.
Our protagonist is an alien creature classified as Experiment 626, later named by Lilo, Stitch.
His name is Stitch.
Stitch is a blue, animal-adjacent creature with supernatural strength, resilience, intelligence, and agility. He speaks both English in an alien language called Tantalong. It is a combination of Chinese, Hawaiian, and Cheskrekian. Stitch's story begins when he is in the process of a tribunal to determine his fate.
Read the charges.
Never, ever make more than one.
He does not fit into the established norms of their world, and is therefore cast aside.
And as for that abomination, it is the flawed product of a deranged mind. It has no place among us. Captain Gantu, take him away.
With pleasure.
The film begins with him escaping impending imprisonment.
It's loose on deck C!
Red alert! Seal up the deck!
Security, converge on door 7. Security to bridge. He's headed for the pilot. Grid. What was that? I don't think he's on the ship anymore.
Like a baddie, and crash landing on Earth before being sought after by his creator to exchange his creator's freedom for Stitch's capture.
For his capture.
They find each other at a dog shelter after Nani tries to help Leela with her loneliness by adopting a dog for her to befriend. However, Stitch, being an alien, scares the other dogs into hiding, so when Leela goes into the back of the shelter, she only finds Stitch.
Hi.
Oh, how?
Wow.
From first sight, she wants him, not because he fits into what is normal for her, or to society, simply because she likes him, and the fact that he can talk.
Not better than him. He can talk. Say hello.
Dogs
can't talk, dear.
He did.
Lilo has been acting out due to her loneliness. If Lilo doesn't start demonstrating more balanced, regulated behaviors, she will be put into foster care, as the reasoning for those behaviors will be made the fault of Nani and her inadequacies as a guardian. Stitch is acting out because that's what he was created to do, and he doesn't know anything different. Stitch was made to be destructive. He's violent, aggressive, and uncontrollable. However, he is nurtured through witnessing the bond between Lilo and Nani, under the threat of Lilo being sent to foster care. Through this, he becomes kind.
Hey! Ew! Means family. There. You know, you wreck everything you touch. Why not try and make something for a change? Want to listen to the king? You look like an Elvis fan.
Compassionate.
You know, I really believed they had a chance. Then you came along.
Self-sacrificial.
Our family's little now, and we don't have many toys. But if you want, you could be part of it. You could be our baby, and we'd raise you to be good. Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind. But if you want to leave, you can. I'll remember you, though. I remember everyone that leaves.
He begins to care about the well-being of someone else over his own survival.
No! Stop!
I forgot.
I know.
Yeah.
Hey, Gamburger Gabbly.
Gonna get Lilo?
Both protagonists learn to become more balanced, insightful versions of themselves through each other.
Waiting.
For what?
Family.
And that loss doesn't mean isolating yourself from future connections out of fear. It means diving headfirst into the new possibilities of relationships, the uncertainties of the love of another, because delighting in the invaluable memories you could make is better than reclining into yourself and never experiencing the pleasure of love and radical acceptance. A way this is represented in the film is a scene where Stitch begins to enjoy surfing. Adaptation is a part of animal instinct. It is a part of the instinct of any living creature. The environment around you will never remain exactly the same unless it is a specifically controlled situation. Adapting is also part of a familial instinct, if you will humor me for a moment. Some changes will inevitably be uncomfortable, but the point of adapting as a family is being a safe space for those changes to occur, regardless of whether or not it's painful. Knowing that you have the support of your family can make even the most unbearable transitions much more tolerable. The way Lilo and Stitch represents this is the fact that Stitch hates water. He hates water because it is unsafe. You could say the water represents the unknown, or love, or trust. You could regard the water as simply a relinquishing of control and an acceptance of vulnerability. It is an acceptance of the fact that your way of living isn't the only way, and your way of thinking isn't the only way, and what you feel doesn't eclipse what other people feel. In a way, it's people, it's love and happiness, it's pain and sorrow, it's the turbulent commotions of life, it is the joyful celebration of death. It is a lot of things. It is nothing at all, and that's okay too. I'm not trying to be mock profound. I understand a lot of what I said could be defined as purple prose if it were in a novel. However, I'm doing my best to try to convey to you that water in this film represents a lot of things, and Stitch initially hates water. In fact, he is actually created to not like water.
What is that?
Water. Most of the planet is covered in it.
He won't survive in water. His molecular density is too great.
His destructive programming is taking effect.
Something is not right. 626 is returning willingly to water.
He cannot swim.
They're going well. Jumba, are they going well?
Why will he risk drowning?
Jumba?
And the expectation of his creator is that he will never adapt to water. You could even take the scene where Lilo sprays Stitch with water as a representative of people in your life inevitably bringing in a situation where you are no longer in control. And in that, you can either accept it or reject it. But then, he is chosen. He's used to people reacting with returned hostility. Of course, this is media for children, so it is a simplification of a complex issue within a metaphorical, hyperfictional representation. But there is some real-life applicability to this story. Coming back to the surfing scene, we can observe this as Stitch relinquishes control for the first time. Stitch observes this familial unit that isn't even the standard family unit. It is an older sister with her younger sister, and her maybe boyfriend or boy friend. The longing he's begun feeling for a family comes to a head in this moment. He does something he's never done before. He puts himself at the mercy of his family. Stitch learns that giving things for others is, in a way, another form of self-preservation. What good is surviving if you have no one to share that survival with? He can choose to preserve himself, to take whatever he wants selfishly, and with no regard to the boundaries of other people. In my own life, many of the things I've experienced have warped my own understanding of emotions. I was the kid who had morbid thoughts from time to time. I was the kid who blurted out what I felt without any regard for how that would be taken by someone else. Every kid has had a Lilo moment.
Cobra Bubbles. You don't look like a social worker.
I'm a special classification.
Did you ever kill anyone?
We're getting off the subject.
But the normal way of life is to eventually overcome these emotions, learn what it means to articulate yourself in an ever-moving, ever-focusing, ever-ignoring world. What about people who have gone through significant life events, an ACE, for example, adverse childhood experiences?
The Adverse Childhood Experiences study is something that everybody needs to know about. It was done by Dr. Vince Felitti at Kaiser and Dr. Bob Onda at the CDC, and together they asked 17,500 adults about their history of exposure to what they called adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. Those include physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, physical or emotional neglect, parental mental illness, substance dependence, incarceration, parental separation or divorce, or domestic violence. For every yes, you would get a point on your ACE score. And then what they did was they correlated these ACE scores against health outcomes. What they found was striking. Two things. Number one, ACEs are incredibly common. 67% of the population had at least one ACE, and 12.6%, 1 in 8, had 4 or more ACEs. The second thing that they found was that there was a dose-response relationship between ACEs and health outcomes. The higher your ACE score, the worse your health outcomes. For a person with an ACE score of 4 or more, their relative risk of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease was 2.5 times that of someone with an ACE score of 0. For hepatitis, it was also 2.5 times. For depression, it was 4.5 times.
Depending on your score, there are a whole host of physical and physiological complications that can stem from those events, to say nothing of the psychological and emotional issues that may come as well. It is hard to grow up when during the time you had to grow up, you were just trying to survive. If you have no emotional space when you are younger, that inner child within you seeks to find that emotional space when you are older, but will often present in unhealthy, unproductive, damaging ways for yourself and for those around you. In some cases, it can even lead to violence. I don't think Lilo and Stitch is trying to say that if your parents die in a car accident, you will grow up to be a violent criminal. But I do think Lilo and Stitch adds to the greater conversation about mental health and how the things that happen to us when we are in our most vulnerable state, when we are children, can have a profound and lifelong consequence, especially if left untreated, unprocessed, unloved, or unaccepted. Stitch didn't go through any significant trauma. Stitch's problem is that he doesn't have memories. He doesn't have anything to reflect on or go back to. No frame of reference for love, connection, and family.
This little girl is wasting her time. 626 cannot be taught to ignore its destructive programming.
Now this is interesting.
What?
626 was designed to be a monster, but now he has nothing to destroy. You see, I never gave him a greater purpose. What must it be like to have nothing? Not even memories to visit in the middle of the night.
In my opinion, that's a bit of an allegory to childhood trauma in of itself, because especially if you were repressing or disassociating, you can almost feel like Stitch. Like you don't have any frame of reference for love, connection. In my opinion, that in of itself can be interpreted as a representation of what unprocessed emotional suffering can do to a person, at least for anyone who has experienced significant trauma or significant adversity. It can sort of wipe out your concept of self, identity, purpose. For some people, it manifests in literal black spots in your memory, gaps that span years during your childhood where you do not remember a single thing. Perhaps I'm injecting a bit of my personal experience, but unfortunately, some of the things I went through as a kid has led to a lot of my childhood being blacked out. I remember bits and pieces, and, of course, as I've continued therapy, more and more has come back to me. But there was a time where I remembered almost nothing. I just was a teenager. I didn't become one, it just happened one day. In a way, that can be a sort of Stitch-like existence. You have nothing, not even memories to visit in the middle of the night. While other people have those memories to visit, those times where life was kind of good, even if it wasn't perfect. They have parents they can talk to about anything and everything. They have a family that is close and protected them. They had the resources that they needed. And this doesn't even have to be a financial thing. There are plenty of families that are rich or poor who have what they need to coexist healthily. But should it matter? Can a person be more than their childhood? Can someone be more than a traumatic event in their life? Yes. Can someone who doesn't have fond memories to go back to make the best of their present and produce fond memories in the now that they get to live in real time?
That's the ugly duckling. See, he's sad because he's all alone and nobody wants him. But on this page, his family hears him crying and they find him. Then the ugly duckling is happy because he knows where he belongs. Want to listen to the king? You look like an Elvis fan. Nani.
Yeah? Look.
We can go on together with suspicious minds.
Yes, absolutely. Can someone who only knew one way of breathing choose to live another way? One that is healthier, one that is more fulfilling, one that leads them to be the kind of friend they want someone to be for them, or being the kind of spouse they want someone to be for them, or being the kind of parent they needed when they were a kid. Can someone be more than what their life said they were worth? Did life say that they were worth that, or did people? Was it their life in of itself, or the circumstance and their interpretation of those circumstances? Can that interpretation be corrected? Can they be more than what happened to them? Can I be more than what happened to me? Yes. And I believe the anchor of this film, Lilo and Stitch, exposes the cornerstone of emotional and psychological healing. This film helped me to process emotions that I didn't have a voice to process when I was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. This film felt with me what I didn't have the capacity to feel because I was so young. This film is family.
Who are you?
This is my family. I found it all on my own. It's little and broken, but still good. Yeah, still good.
It's anchored in love that knows no boundaries or limitations. It is steeped in what it means to choose your family, and how family is more than the blood that connects you. Whether we're forgiven by the people we've wronged or not, forgiving yourself is the first step to becoming a better person, believing that you are capable of being better. And part of reaching that belief is through family. Family holds you in your worst moments. Family is like this quote from Jazzmatazz in a short film that made me cry 2 years ago and still makes me cry now.
So yeah, this sucks. Feeling lonely sucks. But your life isn't worth a performance. Your life is worth the people who will meet you backstage with a hug and flowers. Even if you shit yourself on stage or you fell into the orchestra pit. Okay? This sucks, but pretending sucks more. You can't let people fall in love with the show.
The unconditional love and acceptance of another person will change more hearts and minds in our world than the rightful criticism of another person's actions. Yes, I said it. Rightful. Stitch did a lot of things in the film that could be construed as abusive. He is an animal, an alien life form that doesn't understand nor respect earthly customs or values. He prioritizes his feelings and his desires in such a way that he asserts those feelings and desires onto other people, without care for how it affects them. Now, I don't think Stitch is doing this out of malice toward the human race. I feel he is acting as an animal, which is self-serving in a lot of ways, but not because they're necessarily cruel, simply because it's their instinct. It's what they do. The difference, however, between Stitch and the average animal is that Stitch has a conscience, is aware of his own existence and the existence of others that goes beyond instinct. He is, for all intents and purposes, a person. A creature, yes, but a person. Or if you don't want to use the word person, he is a character. He grows and develops as the story goes on, and evolves from simply an animal acting out of its baseless instincts to a kind and benevolent companion. And yes, there's still a bit of an edginess to him, but that's what makes him as a character fun. Plus, he's adorable. I mean, come on, look at that face. Look at that face. But he eventually begins to take pleasure in the idea of serving someone with no reward, because the real reward is that look on their face. It's the smile they give you, or the hug, or the hula dance they do with you on stage. The reward is love, and love produces family. Who is her? Now, I'm sure that at this point you've grown a bit tired of wondering what the title of this little work is about. Who is the her that this movie reminds me of? Well, for that, I need to give a bit of context. I am an only child. As I've stated before, I spent a lot of time watching Lilo and Stitch throughout my childhood. It connected with me in a way that no other film has, before or since. My name is Imani. That's right, Imani. Sounds an awful lot like Nani, doesn't it? My little sister would have been Lilo. I was only 4 years old when my parents said I would be an older sibling. I don't remember every thought I've had as a kid, and I don't remember many thoughts I've had as a kid, actually, so I couldn't tell you my exact feelings on the matter. only that the few memories I have are colored with a general excitement, longing, and curiosity. I was ready to be that big sister. I was ready to be Nani. I don't know if I'd seen Lilo and Stitch at that point. I couldn't tell you. Not only because I was poor, but even disregarding that, again, a lot of my childhood is blank spots and blurred colors. I've repressed most of it, unfortunately. But I do know that I was ready. I was ready to be Nani. And then it didn't happen. She would have been 17 years old at the time of writing the script. She was stillborn. I used to feel this connection whenever I watched the film after that. This energy in the room. I would pause at certain places and just stare at the CRT TV I had. You know, the one that makes the high-pitched whine sound and crackles with static electricity. I remember I used to stick my arm against the glass of it and watch the hairs go up. It's funny. I'm also remembering that. But I do remember that I used to cry in my bed, sobbing. Why, God, did you take her? Bring her back. She never even had a chance. I was 4 when I said that, verbatim. I remember it distinctly. I did it often around her birthday, especially right after it happened. Up until I was around 6 or 7 years old, according to my mother. I would also run to my mom around her birthday and tell her that I had a dream about my sister, us playing in heaven, playing tag or kicking the ball. And sometimes I feel like I remember that I would always ask why I couldn't stay with her. And it was because you have to live, Ivani. I didn't want to live without her. I still don't think I want to live without her. I wish I could feel differently, but I don't know if I will ever feel differently. But I've stopped believing that she's gone. Not because I am in denial of the fact that she is dead, and has been for over 17 years, but simply because she is my sister. And in some way, she is a part of me. She would have been a part of me had she been alive, and she's a part of me now, even though she's gone. She didn't ever have a chance. In some ways, I wonder if she would have been more successful than I am, more popular. My parents often asserted that she would have been the loud sibling, and I would have remained the quiet one. But I don't think that would have been the case. I truly do think we would have been like Nani and Lilo, both loud and quiet in our own way. I think we would have been really close. I think losing her left a hole in me since I was 4. I think I'm feeling it sometimes, but really I'm distracting from it. It's hard being an only child, especially when you weren't supposed to be.
If the audio for this outro is not as good as the audio for the video, which already wasn't all that great, then I apologize, but I just wanted to thank you so much for watching this video. It took a lot out of me to make something like this. I'm not sure just of anything, of what I'm doing. So I know this is one of those rambly outros that most people skip, but thank you to my patrons, and thank you to my family